Maybe I'll just start it right now. Looks like that's a pretty good picture. If you want it sometime, you could pick this up and turn it towards the kids. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So it says, greetings from Yellowstone. I'll be ready to Skype in about 7 minutes, and that was at 12:23.
So 12:30. 12:30 because 7 plus 23 is 30.
Oh yeah, 12:30, right, yeah.
So we have just a few minutes left. Does anybody have last minute questions for us about how this is going to work or anything? No? Yeah, we're going to. Wait, you guys excuse me. Shh, I can't hear who's asking questions. Yeah. So you ask the question, you can sit down. You could stand up and wait for her to answer it, or you could just sit
I think we'll just probably sit down.
Okay.
Okay, so after you ask, we'll sit down.
Make sure you read them nice and loud though.
Yeah. There, I just sent her a message. We are all set. Call us when you are ready. Okay? So,
if you're, like I said, if you're having trouble with some examples for your research paper, listen in, because she's going to talk specifically about something. That is going to be a bad option. Okay?
okay. Oh. Just missed it. Stop, guys. Just wait. I can't hear.
You guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you see us?
Hello.
Can you see us, Alicia?
I can. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, great. So you can hear me all right.
Yes, we can.
Well, hi. My name is Alicia. I'm a ranger here at Yellowstone National Park. Has anybody heard of Yellowstone before?
Yes.
Everybody has. Almost everybody. All right. Has anybody ever visited Yellowstone National Park before?
Oh, we have about 10, well, 8, 5 hands maybe, 6. Yeah.
All right, maybe a couple of hands can tell me one thing you remember about the park.
I remember Old Faithful.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's our famous geyser. You could watch Old Faithful erupt on the internet now. Did you know that? No. Yeah, there's a live webcam. All right, one more thing. What did you remember about Yellowstone?
Have you been to Yellowstone? No. Okay. Those of you who had been to Yellowstone, who else raised their hand?
Who has been to Yellowstone?
Now we're getting shy.
Hello.
Yes, I can. Kayla, do you remember something?
I don't think anybody else.
I guess they're being shy right now.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, for those of you who have not seen Old Faithful, Old Faithful is a stream of super, super hot water. Before it comes out of the ground, it heats up to about 400 degrees. And then it gets so hot and it's forced into one small opening to leave the earth from, that it shoots out, kind of like, have you used a garden hose before? Yeah. You put your finger over the end, and there's lots of pressure, and you only leave one little spot for water to come out, and it just shoots out. This is what it looks like when that happens here.
Whoa. Wow. I know what you guys are. Awesome.
Oh yeah, so that is one of our very popular features here. There are lots of reasons why Yellowstone is such a special national park. And one is because we're on top of a super volcano. Did anybody know that? Yeah, we're on top of a super volcano. So that heat that we sit on top of is only about 2 miles underneath us here. Where you are, which is 18 hours of driving away from where I am in Yellowstone, the heat is probably 40 miles under the surface from you. Any magma that would be under the earth. So we have lots of cool thermal features like that geyser. Here's one of our hot springs. Yeah, and we also have mud pots. Yeah, these mud pots, they sound like this. Can you do that with your mouth? Yeah, you sound like a mud pot. And this one, it also stinks. It's got sulfuric acid in it, and it smells like rotten eggs. Ew. So a lot of the early explorers saw these features and reported them back to Congress, and that's one reason why Yellowstone became the world's first national park. Did anybody know this was the first national park?
No.
No. One hand. Right.
Got a couple hands.
Oh, good. Couple hands. Well, now everybody knows. So the volcanoes and glaciers really shaped our landscape here. So we have some pretty big valleys that were shaped out by glaciers. You can see this shape right here. There once was a glacier about this tall, moving its way through this valley and leaving behind a bunch of rich soil. Now a bunch of plants grow, grass grows. You'll see a lot of wildlife feeding in a place like this, like bison and elk. We also have mountains here. You see those? And we have this we call this the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. It was carved out by a river. Waterfall. And it's carved all this out. So we have some really neat landscapes and landforms here. And the landscapes and landforms really, they house a lot of biodiversity. Have you heard this word before?
Yes.
Oh, great. So biodiversity is a really interesting thing here in Yellowstone. It creates a lot of different relationships, and especially predator and prey relationships that we have. So we have animals that are herbivores, and we have animals that are carnivores. And from my understanding, you've been studying one in particular, which is
Canis lupus.
Nice.
Yeah, the Canis lupus.
Good job. All right, so how about some quietly raised hands? Tell me some of your favorite things that you've learned about the wolf.
The teachers can call in.
Do you have a number on your card?
Yeah.
No, she's just asked, she's
Interesting things.
she wants
Oh,
interesting things,
general
so
ones?
could
Oh,
you guys
okay.
call on some of your students? Not your questions right now, just something interesting about the gray wolf.
I learned that sometimes
Can you
a
stand up?
wolf.
So she can,
I learned that sometimes some wolves break off and go into make a whole new pack.
Yeah, some of them can break off and make a whole new pack. They can also roam looking for a new home for up to 500 miles. That's a far, far distance. How about one more thing? The teacher call on somebody?
There.
Gee, French on, show you, no.
There.
Okay, Derek?
I learned that the wolves actually hunt in packs and use a circling technique. I thought they just ran for it and just bit them in the leg. But actually they get broken rib cages and stuff. I thought they never got hurt.
Yeah, they can get hurt, definitely. They're very strategic about how they hunt, and circling is a good way to surround the animal. And that is one of the reasons why a lot of animals do not like the feeling of being surrounded. Oftentimes, if an animal is surrounded, it'll start to feel threatened if it's a wolf or if it's a bison. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you ever encounter wildlife, is to not make it feel cornered or trapped anywhere. All right, those are some really interesting things, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the wolves here in Yellowstone specifically, and then we will get some questions and answer time too. So, has anybody here heard about the Endangered Species Act? All right, almost all of you. Great, so that was started in the year of 1973. But before that, here in Yellowstone, we didn't really have the outlook that a species of animal could become endangered. So a lot of the practices here used to be to kill all the carnivores, to shoot them, to get rid of them. Does anybody have an idea why humans, European Americans, would have wanted to get rid of all the carnivores?
They kill livestock.
Yes, very good. You guys have been studying. They killed livestock, which made sense for the carnivores because they were easy prey. But the farmers, the ranchers, they did not like that. So they tried to stop it by putting an end to a lot of the carnivores they saw. So these were wolves, these were bears, cougars, which are mountain lions, and lynx. So they didn't kill off the cougars completely. The cougars came back on their own, but they did kill off the wolves. In about 1926, all the wolves were gone. There was rarely ever a sighting of wolves, and no wolves that were breeding here. So luckily, the Endangered Species Act took place, and it made everybody rethink how they approach wildlife. And the national parks, which is the service here in Yellowstone, I have their uniform on, you can see, a patch, a flat hat, and some badges. I'm a National Park Service Ranger. We started rethinking the way that we approach our wildlife management. And we knew that there were no wolves in our park, and that there were lots of herbivores and lots of prey for the wolves, and their populations were going way up. So we thought, since we have this space, that we should reintroduce the wolves. So in 1995, we reintroduced 31 gray wolves into, well, they were actually all different colors, not just gray, but we reintroduced them into Yellowstone, and their populations are thriving. We have about 100 in our park, about 11 different packs that are located all over the park. And we have about 15 different wolf biologists at one time studying the wolves. So there's a little introduction to the wolves. I know you guys know a lot about wolves, and you might have some really great questions for me. So I'm going to go ahead and let you ask those. Give you time.
Okay, who has question one?
Who has question number one?
Okay, way in the back. Can you wave your hand there, Amber? Let me see if I can hold on. Okay, there she is in the back. All right, go ahead, Amber.
Okay.
Okay, nice and loud.
How does a wolf feel threatened in their environment?
I didn't quite hear that. Can you repeat that if you're closer to the microphone?
How does a wolf feel threatened in their environment?
How does a wolf feel threatened in their environment?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I talked to you about the cornering, right? The circling. So if you were to circle around a wolf, that would make a wolf feel threatened. Also, if you're thinking of a whole entire pack of wolves, another pack of wolves that are coming into their territory will also make that wolf feel threatened, or that pack. So does anybody have a dog at home? All right.
Lots of dogs.
Yeah, lots of dogs. So have you ever seen your dog in a situation where it was growling? Yeah, some of you have. And those are the same types of mannerisms the wolves here would have. They'd probably get low and put their ears back and show their teeth. So that's how you know if a wolf felt threatened. All right, next question.
Question 2. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. What do you do to protect the wolves?
All right, that's a great question. So when we were first reintroducing the wolves here, we had a really big pen, about an acre space big, and it was surrounded by a very tall gate. So they were protected in that way that nobody could get in, and there was absolutely no human interaction with them. So now, after we put them back into the park, we released them from that pen. And our way of protecting them now, since we don't have a fence, is to stay far away from them and avoid any human contact. There is no hunting in Yellowstone National Park, so that is also a way that we protect them. We do not allow anybody to shoot and kill wolves.
Question 3.
Okay. Can we see you? Can you wave your hand? I gotta just see if I can. Oh, there we go. Okay.
What causes wolves to be endangered?
What causes? Well, maybe you guys can help answer that question. It sounds like you know a lot about it. Does anybody have an idea of what caused wolves to be endangered?
Sure. Xander?
Well, people are timid.
Yep.
So people normally would like to go hunt them, and that's how they would become endangered. And then also, other predators might attack them for other food. So that's another way how they can become endangered.
Right, right. So people hunting and killing them, and the natural environment getting to them too. Good. Any other ideas?
Eight.
Like,
There we go.
when the wolves would go out of like a protected area sometimes, sometimes they would shoot them because they don't want them like coming and killing their livestock. And I think
Right.
that's what noise that kind of danger.
So that does happen is if a wolf goes outside of the park in an area where they're allowed to be hunted, then their life is in jeopardy. And especially if they go up to livestock. Ranchers do not like the wolves coming near their livestock. So yeah, ways that wolves can become endangered is killing them, and also diseases that can spread between the wolf population, like mange or distemper. So lots of ways that they can become endangered, but the way that they became endangered here in the United States is mostly through killing them, hunters killing them. All right, next question.
The wolf escaped the park, and if they do, what would you do?
Well, that does happen because we don't have a fence around our entire park. you could fit the states of Delaware and Rhode Island inside of Yellowstone. That's a really large space. And wolves are free to go. They don't recognize the boundary lines, so they do go outside of the park. And we just let them go. If they have a radio collar on, we can track them, but we can't save them from being hunted.
Question 5.
How long do wolves live in Yellowstone National Park?
Will you repeat that?
How long do wolves live in Yellowstone National Park?
Oh, yes. So the average wolf will live from 3 to 4 years, but we do have some really strong wolves that have been parts, like the alpha in packs for quite a while, and they can live up to 11 years. I think we have a couple 10-year-old wolves in the park.
Okay. Question 6. Question 6. Over here.
What are some activities wolves do or that you have seen them do?
Oh yeah, so wolves, they like to play. They're very playful. So they'll go and they'll chase each other. The puppies especially are very playful. Here's a picture of a mom with her pups from below.
It's so cute.
And they defend their territory a lot against other packs of wolves. So they do that by scent marking, and they do that by howling. What else do I see wolves do? I see them walk around a lot. They like to roam. So sometimes you see a lone wolf, and it's actually kind of hard to tell from a distance the difference between a coyote and a wolf. But a coyote has ears that are right on top of its head. And if you have binoculars, you can look to check, because the wolf's ears go out a little bit more. Let's see if I have a good picture of some wolf ears. Here we go. See how the ears are kind of pointing out? Yeah. So when I see a wolf roaming, that's what I look for. Right now in the park, a lot of wolves are just staying in their den because in April, they had all their pups. So a female wolf will have, on average, 5 pups. And they stay in their den, nurse their pups, and getting them healthy and strong for about 10 weeks after they have them. They'll come out and they'll hunt, but they are located right there near their den. So those are some of the behaviors I see with the wolves.
Question 7.
How many wolves are in Yellowstone National Park?
How many? So we have about 100 wolves, and that they're broken up into 10 to 11 different packs. I have, let's see, I have a map of where, so this is outline right here. I don't know if you can see it very well. This
See it
is
pretty good.
okay. This is Yellowstone National Park, and all these different shapes and colors are where different wolf packs are located and where they roam. So the wolves have collars on them, and our wolf biologists keep very close track on the collared wolves so that they can learn all of these things and map them for us. So you can see some of these territories are overlapping a little bit. So there's a lot of dispute between the wolves there. And they'll get really aggressive and sometimes they'll kill each other.
Cool.
So I think that answers the question and more.
And question 8.
Has there been a wolf attack in Yellowstone Park? If so, what caused it to happen?
That's a good question. There have not been any wolf attacks on humans in Yellowstone. So we have had wolves become habituated Does anybody know what that word means, habituated? All right. Yeah.
What do you think it is?
I think it means irritated. Maybe.
Irritated? Well, it means that they've gotten in the habit of doing, like, being near humans. So when a wolf has become habituated, it has been a threat to humans. And what the biologists do is they use aversive conditioning, they call it. So aversion means a strong dislike. So they do things to the wolves that the wolves really are not going to like. Anytime they go near a space with humans, like a campground or something, they'll haze the wolf and they'll chase it away. And they'll make sounds the wolf doesn't like. And if that wolf runs away and it stays away, then it's free to go. But if it keeps coming back, they have to kill the wolf because it's a threat to humans. So there have been no attacks, but there have been wolves getting very, very close to humans before. So good question.
Question 9.
How do wolves act around humans?
Wolves, they usually stay very far away from humans. So usually you have to have binoculars to see them. But I will tell you, once I was standing in the middle of a road. It was a road people weren't driving on. And I was talking to other park rangers and a wolf walked right by us. About, I'd say, 30 yards out. So that's how I acted around the rangers, just walked by.
All right, question 10.
What kind of schooling is required to be a ranger at Yellowstone?
That's a good question. So to be a ranger here, you would want to go to college. You would want to get at least a 4-year degree. And there are a lot of different types of rangers. You have more biologist rangers. And if you wanted to focus on animals and science, that's what you would want to go get your degree in. I am what they call an educational ranger. So I got my degree in education. So I'm kind of like a teacher ranger.
Question 11.
Do you think it's important to coexist with the wolves?
Yes, I do. I think it's very important. They were here before we were, and I think that they deserve a place to live in as well. That's a very good question.
Question 12.
What animal do wolves like to eat the most?
Oh, yeah, well, that's a great question because in the winter, their diet is different than in the summer. So in the summer, they eat a lot of deer and smaller mammals, like maybe a beaver. Here's a picture. But in the winter, most of their diet is elk. And I'm looking for my elk picture for you. Here we go. Here is a wolf pack hunting an elk. See that? And that elk weighs about 500 pounds. So sometimes this back foot will kick the wolf right in the head and end its life instantly. Yeah, so these elk, they have these really big antlers, right? So right before the winter comes, the elk are fighting other elk for territory, and it's their mating season, so they're also fighting for ladies to mate with. And they get very, very, very tired. And they don't eat during this time, they don't sleep, and then the winter comes. And the winter, can you see what it looks like here? What is all this stuff on the ground? No. And all of their food is underneath the snow. So in the winter, it's hard for them to get their food, and they're very tired, which makes them really easy prey for the wolves, because they're so tired. So they get a lot of the bull elks, because the bull elks are the most tired, but they'll get some cow elks too.
Question 13.
Are there any ranches around Yellowstone? If so, how do they feel about the wolves?
All right, yeah, there are some ranches around the Yellowstone, and we talked a little bit about how they feel about the wolves. Not all of the ranchers dislike wolves, but they are very threatened by wolves because the ranch is their livelihood, and their livelihood, what I mean by that is it's their source of living, their source of money, and even sometimes their own food. So when that's threatened, you might not like what's threatening you. So not all the ranchers have a strong dislike for wolves, but they definitely want to see them managed.
Question 14.
Do you think that wolves are good for the ecosystem?
All right, so I think that the wolves are good for the ecosystem, and that is a really big study here. Before we introduced the wolves, the elk population was going way up. And the elk, since there was nothing eating the elk, and they were thriving, and they were eating all day, they were eating really precious habitats for other animals, which this is one of them, the beaver.
Oh, good.
Because the beaver uses the same thing to make its own home that the elk likes to eat. So there was less habitat for the beaver and this yellow songbird that we have too. The elk would eat their habitat. So it definitely seemed like there was a disruption in the ecosystem, and then the wolves were introduced. And right now, our population of elk has been down and sustained, and the wolves population is also sustained. So we're starting to see that there are definitely connections, but there are so many different factors that it's hard to say exactly what that connection is.
Number 15.
What is the most exciting thing that happened at Yellowstone National Park with wolves?
All right. Well, I would say the reintroduction of the wolves, because the wolves were almost extinct here, and we came and we brought their population up. And now they're on their own, and they're creating their own packs, and they have breeding pairs, so they're making more wolves, and they're definitely they have a home now. So I think that's the most exciting thing that's happened with the wolves, that we brought them back.
Number 16.
Have you ever caught someone poaching in Yellowstone?
I personally have not caught anybody, but people have been caught, and it's they're breaking a federal regulation, so there are big fines that they have to pay, and they could go to jail for it as well.
Question 17.
Is there any progress on creating a buffer around Yellowstone to give the wolves extra protection from hunters?
All right, that's a very good question. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, the surrounding states around us are all working together to coordinate with other wildlife agencies to figure out a real good wolf management plan. And currently in Wyoming, you're not allowed to hunt wolves, so that is a big border line to our park where where if a wolf leaves the park, they are not supposed to be hunted. So there's some progress, and it's always shifting and changing. But that's a great question. Are there any more questions?
Question 18.
We have just a couple left.
Okay, great.
18.
Great, there are 20.
18.
Do you like working in a place with wolves?
I do, and I like it because I get to see the wolves, and oh, I never showed you this. I meant to show you. So I get to see the wolves, and I get to tell people the story about the wolves, but when I see a wolf that has this around its neck, I get real excited because I know that this means that we have lots of information about that wolf and the pack and the health of the wolf and where it roams. So I love learning about the story of the wolves and being able to see how they're doing from day to day.
How do you put the radio collars on the wolves?
Oh, great timing for that question. So, let's see. In the winter, the wolves are the most visible. So that is the time where the wolf biologists are the hardest at work. And they fly around in helicopters looking for wolves, especially wolves without collars, so they can put the collar on them, and they tranquilize them. So here's a picture. Can you see that? He's got a tranquilizer gun. There's the wolf.
What? Is the wolf on the wall?
Alright. So here's another picture. Do you think that wolf is awake?
No.
No, it's not. So they put the wolf to sleep and they do different studies. They take blood tests, they see what the weight is of the wolf, they examine the health of the wolf's skin, and they put the collar on, and then they leave them in that same spot so that they can wake up in a familiar environment.
There one more? Nope.
That's it.
That's it? Okay.
That's it for our classroom questions. So,
All right, great questions. I appreciated that list ahead of time too. Thank you. All right, well, it was very great to visit you. And one last thing. With your finger, point to somebody who owns a national park. Looks like you're pointing at me, but turn that finger around and point at yourself and point at everybody in the room because you all own the national park. We protect this place in the national for you. So hopefully you come and visit. And if you don't, maybe you'll find a park closer to you that you can visit.
Okay, what do we say, fifth graders? Alright, nice job, you guys.
she probably
Derek.